Here we are, Real Recovery Talk. I am your host, Tom Conrad. In today's episode, we've got Benjamin B.
What is happening, everyone?
First things first, thank you for tuning in on the podcast app, whichever one that you choose to use. And thank you for watching on YouTube. In the end, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, you could always reach us, Tom at realrecoverytalk.com and Ben at realrecoverytalk.com. And we're going to ask you for your phone number and have a conversation with you about your specific situation. So reach out to us, Tom at realrecoverytalk.com and Ben at realrecoverytalk.com, so we can help you turn your mess into your message. And I had a comment on YouTube a couple days ago. I haven't commented back, Ben, but whoever made this comment said something along the lines of, you've already turned your mess into your message. Why do you have to keep saying it? Or something along that. And I was just like, well, that's kind of rude, but you know, I don't let the comment section bother me at all, but it's like, I know I've turned my mess into my message. Now we want to help you turn your mess into your message. Like, what's so hard to understand about that?
And I think when we bring other people on, we get to hear about their mess. That's now their message.
Yeah. So.
And we need a catchphrase.
Yeah, exactly.
Every good show needs a catchphrase.
How's it going, Ben?
No complaints here.
Anything new in your world?
No, feeling good and just plugging away.
How's football going?
First scrimmage was last night. Fun to watch. The kids always get pumped the very first time they get to like do a little something with another team. It was about 30 minutes of just one team got 15 minutes offense, then 15 minutes defense. It's fun to watch.
What positions Weston?
Last night he was playing center and also nose tackle, but also he's going to be getting the opportunity to run the ball.
Oh, man.
So
that'll be good.
They're just piecing it together. It's just been a couple weeks. 3 weeks in now, 4 weeks in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty cool. Is he excited?
Oh, yeah. He loves football. Kid's obsessed.
Yeah. You watching any new TV shows lately?
Did you see Quarterback on Netflix?
No, I saw the first one. I think we talked about this. The one with, well, I watched the first episode with Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah, we did talk about this.
That was pretty interesting what they go through.
Dude, Kirk Cousins is my man.
Yeah?
Yeah, that's my new man crush. Seriously. The quarterback for the Vikings.
Yeah. Well, that's your team, ain't it?
So I'm a Vikings and a Dolphins fan. I ended up by default a Vikings fan after being in Minnesota for 4 years. At the time, I was a bartender. So, you know, they weren't like playing the Miami games. And we had to wear Vikings jerseys to work. So, you know, it was around the time Brett Favre was playing quarterback for the Vikings. So just kind of became a thing. I found myself cheering for him. But what I was getting at is Kirk Cousins, dude, he's just a good dude.
Yeah, he's a Christian, ain't he?
Like, I would imagine so, just the way that he carries himself. Not to say that Christians carry themselves better than any other group of people, so to speak. However, let me say it like this. It appears that he has a lot of values and principles, and he's really good with family.
Right.
You know?
Very family-oriented.
Yeah.
No, I'm going to finish watching it. I watched, I finished Hijacked. That was a really good show on Apple TV. I also finished Lincoln Lawyer on Netflix. That's phenomenal. And then I recently watched a series, and I feel like you would like this. It's on Apple TV. It's called The Line. And are you familiar with a guy by the name of Eddie Gallagher?
Why do I know that name?
So Eddie Gallagher was one of the Navy.
Oh, the Navy SEAL.
Yes. It's a documentary all about him in that case.
Yep.
That he went to trial for murder and war crimes and stuff. Ultimately got acquitted, and the show itself is pretty fascinating. It's only 4 episodes too, so you should check that out.
I'll have to check that one out.
I like talking about random stuff before we get into the meat and potatoes.
No, definitely. It's we live normal lives too.
Yeah.
Watch TV.
Raise kids, watch TV, work, eat. What else? That's about it.
Eat some more.
That's about it. So, all right. Well, here we are. It's, man, I can't believe it. It's end of August almost already, right? What is today? August something?
August 15th.
Halfway through August. This year has flown by.
Oh, I want to give a shout out. I got a buddy, Diego, out there.
Diego?
You know Diego. Diego.
Okay.
Yeah. He ended up in a unfortunate circumstance, and but he had access to an iPad and has been watching our episodes. And he reached out to me the other night.
Have you gotten any collect calls from him?
Yes. Okay. So, you know what's interesting? Tom and I should comment on this. We get a lot of emails from jail requesting access to all the different phone systems that they have, you know, where we can start an account and stuff. And I got to just be honest, I would love to be able to talk to all the people in jail,
right.
But we just get inundated with these emails. And frankly, you know, it would cost us money. I'll just be straightforward. Like if we started doing it for every one that we get.
Right.
And, you know, it's awesome to know that we are reaching people that are incarcerated. We get that a lot.
I got a letter, and man, I hate to even say it. I got this letter a long time ago, and I've been meaning to write this person back. The name escapes me, but I've actually gotten a few letters, and I haven't gotten rid of any of them, and I do have full intentions on writing back. So that we can do. But yeah, I get what you're saying. The emails for the phone calls and the email systems and stuff, that's something that we can't really get involved in.
Yeah, it would just be unmanageable for me if I'm honest.
Yeah.
You know, but I love hearing that they're getting a message. And I mean, one guy, I sent you a screenshot. A guy actually reached out to me on Messenger when he got out and basically was saying he's listened to at least 250 of our episodes, which is super cool, man. Like,
yeah.
You know, because hopefully someone that's doing time gets out and they have at least a knowledge base, maybe some inspiration, some hope. You know, we've had guys on here like Gio who got sober, you know, in prison and whatnot. A lot of those
Matt
stories.
Anderson.
Matt Anderson, exactly. So
a lot of them. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, you know, I never thought that we would be able to impact as many people as we have. But, you know, it's pretty cool to see. And I'm going to make this announcement. I'm just going to put it into the universe. Okay?
I don't know what's coming. Right. Tom's got a wild idea.
You already know this idea.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So Ben and I this is it. When you hear the podcast, when you watch the podcast, whatever the case is, this is it, you know. And all Ben's job is, and no offense to Ben, but he does a lot more with rock than I do at this point. He's doing a lot of, you know, the operations and the admissions and stuff like that. What I focus a lot on is the production of the podcast, the editing of the podcast, to breaking it up into shorts, to, you know, all the technical stuff that comes with it. And it's becoming a lot. And on top of that, you know, day-to-day operations here at Rock Recovery Center. So I'm putting it out into the universe that we're going to hire somebody. We need to hire somebody to take over all of the production side of the podcast, because one, we're limited to how much stuff we can do, because I only have so much bandwidth. You know, I can only edit and do that stuff so much. And Ben and I, we get pulled in a ton of directions here. So it needs to be done.
And once in a while, only once in a while, Tom, I do feel bad because Tom will be like, we need to get a podcast in today. And I'll be like, yep. And then next thing you know, like something comes up, and I'll be straightforward. I always put our clients first.
Yeah, of course.
The people that are here and in treatment. You know, if they need anything or something's going on, like I'm going to be canceling on Tom.
Yeah.
Just in my nature.
And that is to be expected. And I totally understand that. And I would agree 100%, you know? So, if you know somebody that is potentially could fit the role, I suppose, and they have to be local, they would have to be in South Florida. They would have to be well-versed in, you know, podcast production or digital media production, you know, somewhat of the marketing side of it, you know, getting the podcast out to more people, because although we do have a lot of listeners, there's many more people that it could reach, and it would allow us to be able to put out more than 2 episodes a week, because we have people that want to come on the podcast on a weekly basis. You know, we could stack our schedule with podcasts and interviews and stuff like that, and we're just not able to because we don't have the time. So if I could offload a lot of that onto somebody, man, it would allow us to do a lot more, and it would allow us to create more stuff, because listen, the reality of it is that not everybody can come to rock, and we're okay with that. I mean, we want to help everybody. Unfortunately, we can't though. So, you know, we have some ideas as to things that we want to put together, you know, create that can maybe indirectly help in a way that kind of we would here at Rock. So anyways, if you know who that person is, you can have them email me. Tom@realrecoverytalk.com. All right. What do you think, Ben? That's 13 minutes we're into this, and we haven't even talked about what we're talking about.
Yeah. It feels good, though, to come up here and just chat for a minute.
Yeah. All right. So in today's episode, what we wanted to discuss is kind of the commonalities that you would see, because a lot of times people hear 12 steps and they're like, oh, you're one of those. You're one of those people. The cultish 12-step, you know, people. And I'm a firm believer that the 12 steps should be taught in school. It should be something that people are required to do at some time in their life, because and if you've been a listener of this show for any length of time, you know that has very little to do with the substances. It just so happens to be that's what we use to get sober, but the 12 steps will translate into any aspect of your life. And if you implement the principles behind the 12 steps into your life, it makes it drastically better.
I will say, and I have this discussion with a lot of our clients, because we get clients in here that have done well in business, or they have a lot of potential. They're entrepreneurs, etc. Alcohol and drugs has obviously gotten in the way, but at the end of the day, if we can get past that, there are so many successful recovered people. We just have so many abilities. And one of the things that I let our clients know, occasionally I'll sit a guy down that, you know, they're super driven. I explain to them, I don't believe you realize the benefit to working 12 steps, and at the very least, understanding the principles behind it, because it carries over into business. I mean, a lot of the times, just to be straightforward, clients sit down with Tom and I, and they say to us, we want to do what you do one day. And if we rewind back in time, man, Tom, we've talked about this on past episodes, but just in case you're maybe a new listener, Tom and I met at school at Palm Beach State University. You know, I had my associate's degree. I don't recall where you were at in your process, but we started the addictions program together.
Yeah.
And, you know, we ended up in a group project together right off the rip, sitting next to each other. Tom asked me out for a burrito and between our classes.
Yeah.
And, you know, we just hit it off. But the point is like, you know, one day, I forget why, but we ended up driving to your house in Lake Worth, which was on the lettered streets.
Oh, yeah, 6th and J.
6th and J. And if you know Lake Worth and 6th and J area, you know, it's...
Hood.
Yeah, we'll call it what it is. And, you know, what kind of car did you have back then? A truck, right?
I can't remember. I've had a lot
like
of vehicles.
An S10 or something.
I had a Toyota Tacoma.
Did you?
At one point.
Maybe that's what it was. But yeah, I mean, I had a little efficiency that was like $600 a month, and dude, it was like infested with roaches and
yeah,
so
I had a Toyota Tacoma because the windows got shot out of it 2 days after I got it. Legit, I woke up in the morning and I walked out to go to work and the windows were blown out.
Yeah. So, but the picture that I'm trying to paint is for both of us, we really started from the ground up, not knowing where we would be today, and the lives that we've been able to have as a result of being, we each have 12 plus years of sobriety. In 12 years, when you think about where we were and where we're at today, huge difference. And coming back to what I was talking about, I attribute so much of that to the principles that I've applied to my life. And I'm specifically talking about business, because people see us now and they think that there's some sort of shortcut, so to speak, but it was sticking to principles. And I guess I'll just kind of jump into it as far as how they apply.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for a second, and I'm going to paraphrase a lot of this with the steps, because again, like I want you to see how much of it you could tie into bettering yourself as an entrepreneur. But say, for instance, you take all the God stuff out of the steps. Take the God stuff out. If we talk about step 2 for a second, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves can restore us to sanity. When I look at like business, for instance, we have to believe in an idea, right? We have some kind of idea, and we have to be willing to take a risk that we can do this. And I'm going to be frank with you. Tom's better at that than I am. I'm not much of a risk taker. Tom has these ideas and he just kind of rolls with them. He's always constantly changing the way the podcast looks. I'm a creature of habit. Therefore, for me, it also benefits me to surround myself with Tom, because he makes up for the spots where I need improvement, so to speak. But speak on that for a second, Tom. Having an idea, how do you, I don't know, gain the confidence to just jump forward with something and make a change and do something different?
Well, okay, so let's tie it into the steps again. Came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. That step is implying that we've been insane, and the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. So how could that apply would be, I like change, but I only like change if what I've been doing hasn't been working. You follow me? So let's just use the podcast as an example. When I notice that something isn't working for me, or it's not up to my liking, I want to change it, right? But I also have, I believe that by making this change, things are going to improve. I'm going to have faith that if I make this change, things are going to improve. If I add another light here, it's going to make the quality of the video better. If I add a different microphone, it's going to make the quality of the audio better. I only like change if it's very apparent that what I've been doing in the past hasn't been working. So to tie that into step 2, I have to believe that what I'm doing is for the overall betterment of, whatever the situation is. And that's why I did. I don't like change if it's working. I don't want to fix what's not broken, and sometimes it is an unnecessary change. Sometimes okay, like Ben has always said, "Oh, you're changing it again. You're changing it again." And sometimes it's unnecessary. But for me, I feel better because there's a sense of accomplishment there. I don't know. I feel like it's a little bit different, so maybe it'll, hit a different way. I don't know. Does that help you?
Yeah, but I would kind of argue in a way, watching you, that you like things to improve as well. I wouldn't, because you said if something's not working.
Right.
I've watched things that are technically working, and you take them from good to great.
Well, yeah, and that's just it. Definition of working, is relative. My definition of working could be completely different than what yours is. Ben has more of the mindset of, well, hey, if we help one person today, that's good. And my mindset is, No, I want thousands of people listening to this podcast on a daily basis, and whatever we have to do to get there, that's what we got to do, you know?
So to bring it like to the next step, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. A will is a plan. We've discussed that in the past. You know, I believe this is the point where you just jump in when you have an idea in business, or maybe you want to go back to school. You just got to go for it and not be afraid to fail, so to speak. And at the end of the day, you know, I will share that some of my quote unquote failures have brought me some of the most knowledge that I have. And I'll give you a specific example. I was working in the field for about 4 years when the place that I was at closed down, and I was approached by a lady that asked me to help her open up a treatment center from the ground up. And one of the gentlemen that claimed that he knew how to get the licensing, all that stuff, like that was not going to be part of my role. My role was going to be like client services, client care, etc. Like that's what I knew. And operation as far as the clients were concerned, you know. But come to find out, this gentleman didn't know any of this stuff. And I was in a position where it's like, well, I'm in it now. And ended up having to learn how to get a DCF license, get the Joint Commission accreditations, going to find a urine analysis lab. And I want to touch on some mistakes. Like, for instance, there was some licensing mistakes that I made. You know, for instance, DCF would say, Department of Children and Families would say, state of Florida license says that you can do XYZ. And what I didn't realize at the time is that the state of Florida's licensing standards are below that of what insurance companies are. So I would like set this up per the state of Florida's licensing standards and then find out, oh man, now we're not getting paid by the insurance company because I didn't do it up to their standard. So point is, though, is like through those quote unquote failures, I learned so much about this field. It was the best learning opportunity that I ever had as far as this field goes on all the back end stuff.
Yeah. Well, and anytime you hear people that are successful in business, generally speaking, they have a lot of failed businesses underneath them, you know, and for us, this business hasn't failed, but it's been damn close. You know, there's been a couple of occasions where, you know, Ben and I are like, well, this is it. You know, we're closing up shop. And it was a big learning experience for us, you know. And there was a time where I gave up on the podcast and didn't really want much to do with it. And fortunately, I didn't. And then there was another time where Ben and I, you know, I think we took like 6 months off and didn't put anything out because, you know, for whatever reason, we were busy here and stuff like that. But, you know, I think one of the things is that like, when you want to be successful at something, there is going to be uncomfortability. You are going to have to put faith in something that something's going to work out. Mm-hmm. You know, and I think that's where it translates down to step 3 that like, hey, you know, I may not have the whole thing planned out right now, but I have a pretty good trajectory. I have a pretty good idea of where I want to be. I have a pretty good outline of how I'm going to get there. I know there's going to be, you know, setbacks and stuff like that, but having faith that it's going to work out.
Yeah. And there was a time too, you know, I like tying this back to like, maybe it paints a picture of how we got to where we are today, but Tom had approached me back in 2013 to help with Rock, and that's when I'd gotten the same opportunity basically with this other lady, and I took that at the time, and that business ultimately ended up failing. Yeah. But then it worked out that, you know, Tom saw the role that I was playing over there, and him and I had coffee, and then I ended up coming over to Rock. So essentially, part of what I'm grateful for is that I actually had more to offer Rock after going through that than what I would have had Tom and I started together in 2013.
Right.
I think me coming in 2016.
Yeah.
Like I'd had more life experience. I had more quote unquote failures. I'd bumped my head more, but I also came with a lot more knowledge than what I had initially.
Yeah.
I think we both got to probably learn better in that aspect.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So, step 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. And even the big book talks about this constantly. It uses the example of a business taking regular inventory. If they don't take inventory, it'll go broke. Like the grocery store, for instance, needs to not run out of whatever goods. But I want to touch on it more from a personality perspective, where when I'm showing up to my job, am I doing the best that I can? I'm taking an inventory. Am I doing that job like I'm getting paid $1 million an hour? And if I'm honest with myself, like, am I somebody that other people enjoy working with, other people want to be around, and that when I show up, they say, man, Ben's an asset here. You know, I have to constantly take inventory of myself within the workspace.
Yeah. Well, it's a lot of people miss that part because it's, you know, step 4 in and of itself. A lot of times people have fear around doing it because it's a fearless and searching search. How's that go? Searching,
searching a fearless moral inventory of ourselves.
Yeah. Nobody likes to do that. Mm-mm. Really, nobody does. People have a really hard time admitting when they're wrong. People generally have a hard time admitting their faults or areas in which they can improve. But rest assured, to be successful in anything in your life, you have to be willing to admit, hey, I screwed up. You know, I did something wrong. I could have gone about this a different way, so on and so forth. And people that don't do that inside business or inside the family dynamic, whatever the case is, those people are often looked at like idiots, honestly. Like, you know, and it's just not, you know, if you look at John Maxwell has a book out called The 5 Levels of Leadership. Level 1 leadership is, I'm going to follow you because I simply have to, you know, and you see a lot of this in corporate world. Mm-hmm. It's the boss. Okay. I have a boss. I don't have a leader. I have a boss. A guy comes in, you never know what mood he's going to be in. 9 times out of 10, he's an asshole. All he's doing is barking orders, so on and so forth. I'm following this person simply because I have to. I haven't bought into any of his methods. I haven't bought into any of his, just any of that stuff. I'm just not bought on. And then you get up to level 5 leadership, where it is, I follow you because not only do I have to, but I want to. I've bought in. I know where you want to go with this business, or, you know, whatever the case is. I follow you because you are a leader. You are somebody that I respect. You're somebody that is going to take us far, and I'm going to follow you in that. That is level 5 leadership. And you find that inside of businesses where people can be honest and they can actually say, hey, I don't know everything. And I'm the first to admit, even here at Rock, like, I don't pretend to know what I'm talking about when it comes to therapeutic whatevers, you know, modes of therapy and stuff like that. Like, it's not our wheelhouse. Just the same as they don't come to here and say, oh, I think you should move this light here. I think you should do, we have one person that does that. But, you know, for the most part, it's, and when I do screw up, or I make a comment, or I suggest something that isn't right or whatever, I'm quick to admit it. And I think that's, you know, and that's all of our staff here is that way, you know.
There was a lot there. You actually just encompassed a bunch of the steps, but I was kind of thinking in my head, maybe 4 through 10 really cover everything you just said.
Yeah.
But a couple points that really jumped out to me there that I want to break down. We encourage our clients here too and this is based off our experience, work their way up. You know, a lot of times clients tell us, or we tell clients, hey, why don't you go get a job at Dunkin' Donut for right now, rather than, you know, trying to be the CEO of Apple. And they don't understand why. And the thing is going back to leadership, in my opinion, this is what builds leaders. I had to learn how to be an employee first. I can speak for myself. I know Tom did the same. Like, I literally started in this field as a behavioral health tech, and I had to work the overnights. You know, I did whatever was asked of me. If they called me in, I jumped up. You know, I would drive into work. If somebody called out or something, like, I did not hesitate, no matter what shift it was, even on no sleep. I would, let me get this done. Became a lead, became a supervisor, became a manager, became a VP of operations, became a COO, like literally step by step up the ladder. And I attribute a lot of my personal success to the fact that, like, I know what it's like to be in every single position in this field. Just about, did school for, to be an addictions counselor. I'm not a licensed therapist. I haven't done as much to that level, nor am I a doctor. However, like, I've got a little bit of experience in just about everything. I know a little bit about billing. I know a little bit about UR, a little bit about insurance, a little bit about, medications, just enough, but to where it's relevant. And you got to be, I don't know that this is totally related, but either be an expert at becoming an expert. That's a Navy SEAL saying, since you brought up the Navy SEALs earlier. They're experts at becoming experts, or being able to recognize another expert and bringing somebody in to do the job. I don't want to be blind to all the different departments, because then I don't know how to find a good employee, so to speak, or somebody for that position. But I believe in, working your way up. Learn to be an employee first. In my opinion, from what I've seen, at least in our space of treatment, maybe sometimes there's somebody who was in treatment, maybe they had a trust fund or something, and they graduate treatment, and 3 months later they're trying to open their own treatment center. Yeah. Any of the people that I know that did that, their place has failed.
Yeah.
It's the people that work their way up that have got these solid places. They earned it, so to speak.
Well, it's all about seeking wisdom, right? And I think, and we do preach that to our clients in terms of building your network of people, building your community of sober supports, in particular, finding people that have substantial sobriety time, because those are the people that are going to offer you the best advice, the best feedback, because we're taught to seek wisdom. If I wanted to know something about whatever, I'm going to seek the best person that I can in that area, and that's what we, share with our clients is, and I tell people in group today, like, I have an open door policy. If you want to come in and talk to me about something, by all means. If you want to talk to me about the trauma that you endured when you were 5 years old, not so much. Go talk to your therapist or one of the therapists, so on and so forth. And I think it's important for people to be able to do that. And, with that comes a lot of growth and business and in your sobriety and in your family life and so on and so forth. Constantly remaining a student. We get a lot of those clients that, especially if they've had sobriety time in the past, it's really hard to get them to break away from that. Like, I had, 5 years sober back in 1986 to 1991. Like, okay, congratulations. We're now 2023. You've been drinking and drugging for the past 30 years. You had five years of sobriety when you were, 20. Now you're 65, and you drank and drugged the last 30 years of your life. And you're going to come in here and tell us that you got it all figured out,
And the fact of the matter, too, is going back to, like, taking inventory, being honest with yourself about, maybe you used to be a district manager of X company and you believe that you deserve that back. The reality of the situation is, if we're honest with ourselves, especially as alcoholics and drug addicts, we failed at it. We fail to realize that we lost that job due to not only our drinking and our drugging, but our behavior and our unmanageability in our life. So many of our clients, myself included in early recovery, believed like, well, I'm sober now, so I deserve that right back. The fact of the matter is I failed at it for more reasons than just alcohol and drugs.
Well, we don't deserve anything, first off.
Yeah.
I mean, it's it's something that you need. If you go through your sobriety thinking that you deserve X, Y, and Z, you're in for a rude awakening, because ain't none of this given to us, for free.
So we have a client here now. I actually just had this talk with her a couple days ago, and there's always repetitive talks. I have the same talks with clients over the years. There's a number of them. But I remember she was so excited when she got hired at this one place like a couple months ago. And, I mean, jumping for joy. 2 months later, I'm going to quit. This place is terrible. Why didn't I get the promotion? This, that, the other. And I rewinded back. I said, just 2 months ago, do you remember how grateful you were just to get that job? Now, all of a sudden, like Bill W. said, you should be placed at the head of vast enterprises. Like, again, like having some humility. Being modest.
Yeah.
What would it be? Humility, and again, putting in your time to get to a place. Tom, you had touched on the second thing I wanted to touch on. It took me a while to get to it. I'll give a shout out to Maya on this one because it was a perfect example. We 6 and 7, we admit our shortcomings, our character defects. 8 and 9, we make amends. And part of the amends process, like Tom was talking about, is admitting our faults. And this is so important in business. There is not one person on the face of the planet who has not made a mistake in the workplace.
Right.
They happen regularly. I don't care who you are. Probably happens on a daily basis. I know it does for me. But with that being said, for instance, Maya just demonstrated this perfectly downstairs. She can't. We're all like a bunch of brothers and sisters around here, but she comes storming in the office where Tom and I are, and where's so and so client? They're supposed to be here. And just by chance, I was looking at the schedule for another reason, and I'm like, oh, I didn't see so and so on the schedule. She forgot to put him in, and so she calls up our transport guy and's like, I messed up, right there, just admitting. And then she said something key. She said, in the future, I'll be sure to double check the schedule and do better.
Right.
So not only did she admit she messed up, but she said how she was going to do better. And it was a perfect example. And let me be straightforward with you. I trust somebody more that is going to just come forward and be like, hey, I made a mistake. Yeah. And here's how we're gonna try and fix it, versus somebody that's going to come in and tell me I'm never going to make a mistake. I don't trust that person because they're right off the rip. That's, I don't know, lying, right?
Yeah, of course. It was funny though too, because we were giving her a hard time about it. And she's like, "What? I always admit my wrongs." And I'm like, "Are you sure?" Because I don't know. Nah, she's good. She's awesome.
Yeah, we're like family here, so we also tease each other and, and laugh hardcore. Sure. But it was a perfect example of that's how you earn trust in the workplace. Don't try and hide mistakes. Don't try and lie about it. Get ahead of it. Hey, I screwed this up. I might need your help fixing this even.
Yeah.
If I can't come up with something, or can you help me fix this? Don't be afraid. Like,
right.
I trust people that are like that.
And these are all principles that people will learn and gain, because for the vast majority of us, when we get sober, we don't have this stuff ingrained in us because we've spent so many years drinking and drugging, manipulating, lying, cheating, stealing, that it takes time to develop these back.
Mm-hmm.
I believe we're born with them, like or they're developed within us if we have good parents and stuff like that. We're brought up the right way. But when we become drug addicts and alcoholics and do that for 10, 15, 20, 30 years, you forget what it is to have those traits. And that is what I think is so important about the 12-step program is, again, going back to the very beginning of this, which was it has very little to do with the substances and has everything to do with it's a way to live your lives and the changes that can be made within you if you do this the way that it's outlined to do. You know, so did you have anything else?
Yeah, on that real quick, I would say, correct me if I'm wrong, or tell me if you agree with this. I would say the number one thing people don't like about politicians is that none of them take accountability for anything.
Yeah, well, that amongst a lot of other things.
But that one really jumps out to me, that it's always finger pointing.
Yeah.
And it's a toxic trait to never take accountability for something. Mm-hmm. I don't want to be a politician as far as principles go.
Right.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I wanted to touch on step 12, which is carrying the message, helping another alcoholic, paraphrased. But you already touched on leadership. I kind of wanted to throw it out there that just like sponsorship, I take somebody through the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, work 12 steps with them. Then what do? I pass them on. I say, you carry the message, spread your wings and fly, get yourself a sponsee and show them how to do it. I don't keep them hold them hostage and be like, I'm forever your guide and manager in life.
Right.
No, here, I showed you how to do these 12 steps. I showed you how to apply these principles in your life. Now go on your own and do it. Coming back to step 12 with business principles, if you are a good leader, if you're a good manager, and if you're good at business, you should be able to constantly train somebody up to the same level. What'd you say earlier downstairs?
Always be training your replacement.
Always be training your replacement. And one of the things that I've noticed in business that people come resentful about, and maybe this is their perception and not always the case, but someone will begin to feel, quote unquote, used. They're really, really good at their job and in their position. So rather than management allowing them to grow into a new position, they leave them there and basically use them, where a leader or a manager should be grateful, and because it shows that they're good at what they do. If somebody gets to a certain level and then they move on to somewhere where maybe has a better opportunity, because, for instance, with Rock, we're a small place. If any of our employees ever came forward and said, hey, I've learned all I can here, there's no more opportunity here, we've given them that training. We've given them that experience to where they can go on and be even more successful somewhere else. That is something to be happy about. Not being afraid to allow great employees to move on if it's going to better them. Because if you're a great leader, you'll be able to take the next rookie and do the same thing with them.
Yeah, I heard somebody put it once too. Don't put a lid on somebody's leadership. Allow them to go flourish somewhere else,
Definitely.
Or if it's within the same company in a different role or a different position or something like that, and even kind of here with the podcast and stuff, I want somebody to take over what I've been doing so we can expand on this and do more. And then when we get bigger, and I know we reference Mind Pump a lot, but I love how they have done things over the years. And I've been a listener of them for the past 7-8 years. So I've seen them from the very beginning or up through today. And how they've kind of built their business is super inspiring. And that's what I want to do. And we've got they're the number one health and fitness podcast on the planet. So, I mean, they get millions of downloads on a monthly basis. We're nowhere near that, but it doesn't mean that we can't. And we have gotten to the point now where we need to start thinking about how can we expand this, because Ben, we're 7 years into this podcast and we could be a lot further than we are. but I think it's because I've put a lid on my own leadership in a way that I've just kind of taken all this and done it myself. Granted, you know, we're trying to do a lot here with very limited amount of time and energy, but we've did what we have been able to do. And now it's time to bring someone else in. And then as we grow, they grow, bring somebody else in, and so on and so forth. So that's what I want.
I think, too, that encompasses the whole idea of recovery, where what jumps out to me is consistency. When you say 7 years, while we have not executed it to the best of our ability at times, if you look at the big picture, over 7 years, we have been pretty consistent.
Yeah.
And I think that's just like recovery, where, you know, there's been times where over 12 and a half years, sometimes my recovery has been a little bit better than other times.
Yep.
Sometimes my application of principles, you know, going to meetings, stuff along those lines, working with sponsees has been better at certain times than other times. But over the course of 12 and a half years, I can look back and say, there was nowhere where I threw in the towel and did nothing.
Right. Yep. I agree, Ben. Is that it?
I think so.
Any plans for the rest of the week?
What's today? Tuesday? Venture group on Thursday. Not sure what I'm going to do yet.
I did Drive Shack today, so.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
That's the clients always like that.
Yeah, it was fun.
It's like mini one-on-one sessions.
Too. It's expensive.
The camaraderie that comes of that too is so important. I get how, you know, maybe from licensing standards, people might think, oh, took them out to swing a golf club today. How does that apply to recovery? But at the end of the day, like, our culture here has so much to do with everybody is facing, we're in the same boat.
Yeah.
You know, we have similar goals, and the camaraderie, fellowship that occurs during these Tuesday, Thursday adventure groups that we do is so important to the cohesion of what ends up happening in a group.
Right.
You know, the time that we're in the classroom, the relationships, I believe, the glue solidifies on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then when they're sitting in the classroom setting here, they feel like they're a unit.
Yeah.
You
know, good way to put it.
It's magical to watch because they have real, genuine relationships with each other versus, hey, man, this is just the guy that so when I got I don't know why my DUI sticks out in my mind, but when I got my DUI, I used to show up to this IOP 3 times a week in Minnesota. And, you know, it's just random people sitting in a circle every week. And there was no camaraderie. The only camaraderie that I saw that would occur based off of it being so random and nobody actually living together, stuff along those lines, the only camaraderie would be happening was the ones that wanted to hook up and do the bad stuff. You know, like, oh, man.
Yeah, where are you going after class?
Yeah, oh, you getting some meth? Really? Oh, man, you know, it's been at the forefront of my mind for 2 weeks. And
you want to go meth around? You like that?
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah. No, it's true. I mean, it's important. That's what we do. We want people to have fun, but it's also, you know, we put a lot of work in, and you know, it's important to have the clients understand, because Ben and I have been there too. I mean, that's the thing. We're not preaching from the hilltops, and, you know, our way is the only way or the best way, but it's the way that worked for us, and it's the way that at this point has worked for hundreds, if not thousands, of people that we've treated over 10 years. You know, so.
Yeah, the other thing, if you're not having fun and loosening up, because let's call it what it is, you know, our clients are coming here. Some of them are working through some severe trauma with their therapist. I mean, severe trauma.
Yeah.
Some of them, you know, they're family issues. So, you know, they're coming out from their therapist's office. Maybe they had a rough week, you know, maybe a phone call. Things didn't go as planned. Their family's still upset with them. They were hoping
going through a divorce.
Oh, yeah. So if you don't have those moments where you can clear your mind and it's all doom and gloom,
yeah,
it's doesn't make for a winning recipe, in my opinion.
All right. Well, that is it for this episode of Real Recovery Talk. Thank you for tuning in the end. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, you could always reach us. Tom at realrecoverytalk.com and Ben at realrecoverytalk.com. And ultimately, we want to help you turn your mess into your message. Right, Ben?
That is correcto mundo.
All right. That is it. We will see y'all later.